Welcome to Forgotten Leaf Secrets. What if you could plant a crop once and harvest it for the rest of your life? Centuries ago, farmers discovered perennial plants that never stopped giving. These weren't just foods. They were survival tools, medicine, and hidden treasures buried in the soil. Through famine, war, and harsh winters, these crops carried families across generations. They grew back every year, stronger, wilder, and more resilient than anything we plant today. But modern agriculture erased them. Their names faded, their flavors forgotten, their wisdom buried. And yet, they wait, quietly, ready to return. Today, we uncover 7 of these lost survivors. Crops you plant once and harvest forever. Our journey begins with a plant once called the poor man's asparagus, Good King Henry. In medieval villages, this humble perennial was more than food. It was survival. Families planted it once, and every spring it rose again, offering tender shoots that tasted like asparagus, leaves that cooked like spinach, and seeds that could be ground into flour. Imagine a single plant feeding entire households year after year without the need to sow again. For peasants living through famine and war, Good King Henry was a quiet guardian. It grew in poor soils, demanded little care, and yet gave endlessly. Its presence was so common that it became part of folklore, a symbol of resilience, a plant that refused to die. But as agriculture industrialized and modern crops took over, Good King Henry was pushed aside. Its name faded from kitchens, its seeds vanished from markets, and its story was buried under centuries of neglect. Today, only a few scattered gardens remember it. Yet, if revived, this perennial could once again nourish us, a forgotten crop waiting to reclaim its place as a food of endurance and survival. Our second survivor is a root vegetable almost erased from memory. Skirret, sweet white roots that grew in clusters like carrots. Skirret was once a prized delicacy of medieval kitchens. But unlike carrots, it didn't demand replanting every season. Plant it once, and its roots multiplied endlessly, feeding families year after year. In the cold winters of Europe, when food was scarce, skirret became a lifeline. Its flavor was described as sweet and earthy, perfect for stews, roasts, and even desserts. Kings and peasants alike valued it, a crop that carried both luxury and survival. But as potatoes and modern root crops spread across the world, skirret was forgotten. Its name faded from recipes, its seeds vanished from markets, and its story was buried under centuries of neglect. Yet, hidden in old gardens and rare seed vaults, skirret still survives. A perennial root that could return to our plates, offering resilience, flavor, and a reminder of how nature once gave endlessly, if only we remembered to plant it. Our third survivor is a vegetable that once stood tall in medieval gardens. The perennial leek, unlike the leeks we know today, which demand replanting every season, these ancient varieties divided themselves endlessly. Plant them once, and they multiplied into clusters, returning year after year without fail. For medieval cooks, perennial leeks were a treasure. Their mild, onion-like flavor became the backbone of soups, stews, and broths. In villages where food scarcity was common, leeks offered a dependable harvest, a green that never abandoned its people. But beyond the kitchen, leeks carried symbolism. They were seen as a sign of strength and resilience, even worn as emblems in battle. Farmers believed that a leek patch was a promise. No matter how harsh the winter, food would return. As agriculture modernized, perennial leeks were replaced by annual varieties, easier for trade, but weaker in endurance. The old strains faded, their seeds lost, their story buried. Yet, hidden in rare gardens, the perennial leek still survives. A forgotten crop that whispers of a time when planting once meant eating forever. A living memory of resilience waiting to be revived. Our fourth survivor hides beneath the soil. The Jerusalem artichoke, also called the sunchoke. This humble tuber was once a famine breaker, a crop that thrived where others failed. Medieval farmers planted it once, and year after year. Its roots multiplied endlessly, even in poor soils where hunger threatened villages. Its knobby tubers carried a sweet, nutty flavor, eaten, roasted, boiled, or mashed. But beyond taste, they carried resilience. In times of scarcity, when grain harvests failed and winter pressed hard, Jerusalem artichokes stood firm, a hidden vault of survival beneath the earth. Farmers called it the invisible crop, because it grew quietly without demanding care, and returned every season without fail. It was food security in its purest form, a plant that refused to abandon its people. But as potatoes spread across Europe and commerce reshaped diets, the Jerusalem artichoke was forgotten. Its name faded, its fields vanished, and its story was buried. Today, only rare gardeners remember its power. Yet, if revived, this perennial tuber could once again feed us through crisis, a lost survivor waiting to rise from the soil, reminding us that nature's gifts were never meant to be temporary. Our fifth survivor is a plant that carried both medicine and flavor. Rhubarb. In medieval times, rhubarb was more than a garden crop, it was a healer. Apothecaries prized its roots for digestion and cleansing, while farmers cherished its tart stalks for pies, preserves, and stews. What made rhubarb extraordinary was its resilience. Once planted, it returned every spring, stronger and taller, demanding little care, yet offering endless harvests. For families living through harsh winters, rhubarb was a promise. Food and medicine would always return. Its crimson stalks became a symbol of endurance, standing tall in village gardens as proof that nature could regenerate itself. Children grew up tasting its sour bite, while healers ground its roots into powders that traveled across trade routes. But as modern farming shifted toward annual crops and imported foods, rhubarb's story was overshadowed. Its medicinal roots were forgotten, its cultural role erased, and its survival power ignored. Yet, even today, rhubarb waits quietly in forgotten corners of old gardens. A perennial crop that could once again heal, feed, and remind us of a time when planting once meant harvesting forever. Our sixth survivor is a towering herb once loved in medieval kitchens and apothecaries. Lovage. At first glance, it looks like celery, but its flavor is sharper, richer, and far more enduring. Farmers planted it once, and every year it rose again, tall, fragrant, and unstoppable. In medieval villages, lovage was more than seasoning. Its leaves flavored soups and stews. Its stalks were eaten fresh, and its seeds became powerful medicine. Healers used it to ease digestion, cleanse the body, and even calm fevers. For families, it was a plant of dual purpose, food and cure, growing side by side in the garden. Lovage carried symbolism too. Its towering height made it a marker of abundance, a sign that nature could provide endlessly. Villagers believed it was a gift from the earth, a plant that refused to die, returning stronger each spring. But as modern agriculture narrowed diets and imported spices replaced local herbs, lovage was forgotten. Its name slipped from recipes, its seeds vanished from trade, and its healing powers were buried under centuries of neglect. Yet, even today, lovage survives quietly in rare gardens, a perennial herb that could once again flavor our meals, heal our bodies, and remind us of a time when planting once meant harvesting forever. Our seventh survivor is a fiery root that refused to die. Horseradish. In medieval times, horseradish was more than just flavor. It was medicine, strength, and resilience. Farmers planted it once, and it spread endlessly, its roots digging deep into the soil, returning stronger every year. Its sharp, biting taste became a staple in medieval kitchens, used to awaken heavy meals and preserve food through long winters. But beyond flavor, healers valued horseradish as a powerful remedy. It was believed to clear the lungs, strengthen the blood, and even fight infections. For families, it was a plant of endurance, a route that carried both survival and healing. Horseradish was unstoppable. Once it took hold in the soil, it multiplied, spreading across gardens and fields, a living symbol of persistence. Villagers saw it as nature's fire, a plant that burned with life, refusing to fade. But as modern diets shifted and imported spices replaced local remedies, horseradish's role diminished. Its medicinal power was forgotten, its cultural importance erased, and its survival story buried. Yet, even today, horseradish thrives quietly, waiting to be rediscovered. A perennial crop that could once again flavor our meals, heal our bodies, and remind us of a time when planting once meant harvesting forever. We have uncovered 7 forgotten survivors. Crops that medieval farmers planted once and harvested forever. From fiery roots to healing herbs. From famine breakers to endless greens, each of these perennials carried wisdom that modern agriculture erased. Think about it. A world where food regenerates itself, where medicine grows in the garden, where survival is woven into the soil. These crops were not just plants, they were lifelines, guardians of families, and silent witnesses to history. But today, they remain hidden, scattered in rare gardens, buried in seed vaults, waiting for someone to remember. Waiting for us to bring them back. The question is not whether they can return. The question is whether we are ready to rediscover them. Because in times of crisis, in moments of scarcity, these forgotten crops could once again become the difference between hunger and survival. We have walked through the forgotten vault of medieval wisdom. 7 perennial crops that once fed empires, healed families, and carried survival through centuries. Plant them once, and they return forever, a promise from nature that modern farming chose to forget. These crops are not just relics of history, they're keys to resilience, medicine, and endless harvests. If revived today, they could change how we eat, how we heal, and how we survive. They remind us that nature never needed to be temporary. It was always meant to endure. This is the power of forgotten leaf secrets. Wisdom buried by time, waiting to be rediscovered. Like and subscribe to Forgotten Leaf Secrets.